This meeting of SPERDVAC will come to order.
Hello again, folks. This is Zach Eastman, Vice President of SPERDVAC, the Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Radio, Drama, Variety, and Comedy, your host for these podcast proceedings, and the man once voted most likely to need industrial-sized bottles of Luster Cream shampoo to combat oily hair in high school. Self-care, guys. Learned it early. Thank you all again for tuning in to our last episode where we had some wonderful stories from the Great June Foray, and thanks to all the folks who have enjoyed this program so much that they decided to join SPERDVAC in the past couple of months. President Corey Harker, myself, and the entire board are delighted to see this audio arts family growing. Now, for today's show, I thought I'd tick off a little bit of a bucket item list for me. For those who don't know, when I'm not obsessing over blue-eyed 39-year-old violinists or finding myself thrilled to the mysteries solved by Rathbone and Bruce, I find myself directed toward a groundbreaking and very sharply written sitcom named Our Miss Brooks. Its wit, irreverence, and heart have been great pick-me-ups for me on a low day, and I wanted to see what SPERDVAC had in the vaults related to everybody's favorite English teacher at Madison High. Now, as luck would have it, we were privileged in the past to have one of its cast members, Gloria McMillan, who played Harriet Conklin on the show, attend a few of our conventions. And I found myself quite glued to attention when listening to her first meeting with us back in 2006. Some of the stories of Gloria's time through radio I had heard secondhand from one of our board members, Walden Hughes, when we were discussing her time on Lux Radio Theater a couple of years ago. But a fuller picture of the woman who played Harriet Conklin became much clearer when listening. This wasn't just an actress of comic ability that later taught what she knew. This is a young woman who supported her family after a tragedy, had an equally courageous and strong mother who would become one of the primary talent agents for young performers. There was just a lot that kind of came up and kind of broadened my brain a little bit. I also thought she brought something extremely rare when it comes to these stories of classic media. Gloria's experience as a child actor on radio were, from her perspective, not the makings of Hollywood tragedy or tension. No stage moms, no forced performances, nothing like that. Instead of hanging on to her every word, waiting for tea to be spilled, as they say, what you hear is really a warm-hearted second family story that Gloria had to share. For a few minutes, too, you feel a little bit a part of that family. I think radio fans in general feel like they're part of a small and special family, and Gloria clearly feels that when talking about stories regarding cast members she worked with, from Gail Gordon and Eve Arden on down to Richard Crenna. So with that in mind, I don't want to keep you any further. I want you to be able to kind of have this chat unfold for you the way it did for me, which is you don't know too much going in and you get to just enjoy this lovely journey back to June 10th, 2006, as we listen to stories from Gloria McMillan, or should I say, our Miss McMillan.
We were very fortunate to get this young lady because she's still active on stage and performing all over the Southern California. So it's kind of nice that she was able to carve out a spot here on a Saturday afternoon to come and share her radio memories with us. Most of us remember her for one role, but in doing a Google search, you find out that she was a very, very active young lady on radio back in those days. So, and she's going to tell us all about that and share her memories of radio with us. So it's my pleasure right now, and let's give a nice, warm SPERDVAC welcome to Gloria McMillan.
This is so much fun. I'm still alive, and my husband Ron and I have just laughed all morning about you know, gosh, do you think they think I'm dead or alive? What am I? Oh my goodness. This is a real honor. I was invited to do this by Bob when you had that event for for kid actors, and all of my friends were able to do that.
The
and I wasn't
2004
able.
convention, yeah.
Tommy Cook and Conrad Binion and Johnny McGovern, John Wilder, and all those people. So I just felt so badly, because that would have been really fun to reconnect and see them again after so many years. I guess, having been in the business for so long, I'll just give you a little overview. Is that okay?
Where did it begin? How
And
did you get
please
started?
feel free to interrupt me and ask questions, because, gosh, there's a lot, I guess, to tell. I was born in Portland, Oregon. My mother knew from the moment that I was born, so she tells me, that I was going to be an actress, and she named me Gloria because she hoped that I would be an opera singer first, because Caruso, who was a very famous opera singer at that time, he had a daughter named Gloria. So Mother named me that in the hopes that I would find my way to the opera. I didn't. And so instead, she guided me when I was 4 to KGW, which is I don't know if it still is, Bob. KGW was the NBC affiliate in Portland, Oregon. And they had a kids show called Stars of Tomorrow. And so when I was 4, naturally, she took me to audition for that radio show. And meanwhile, of course, I was taking singing and dancing and everything, like a 4-year-old should. And they hired me, and I was on every week. And lots of famous people. Janie Powell was on that show, and I never can think of the guy that sang Little Cloud That Cried.
Oh, Johnny Ray.
Johnny Ray started on that show. And I would sing every week, and that, boy, this really tells you. I would sing every week, and they would bring out a piece of plywood on a box, because I was short, you know. And I would tap dance on the radio, which to me always seemed just odd and strange. But I did it as a kid, and I guess that, you know, that's what they did. That's how they did it.
Well, Fred Astaire had a radio show.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a hoot. There I was, tap dancing on the radio. And then the kids from the show, they would take, and there was a big Orpheum Theater in downtown Portland, where they would show movies. I don't know if they were talkies or in those days, I don't know. But I know that we were well, I guess, I don't know what they were, but the kids from the show would come in while they played the organ between the movies, and then we would perform, and we would dance, and we would sing. And I can remember so vividly, I was 4 and a half or maybe 5, and they had a huge big wagon off stage, and we were all dressed in cowboy stuff, and they had hay on it, and they dragged this whole big thing on stage, and we all got off and did our thing, you know. I can remember waiting in the wings thinking I was just terrific. You know, I was performing in this beautiful, I can still remember, beautiful theater. Well, anyway, not to get stuck on 4 years old. After that, and when I did that for a couple of years until I became, when I was 6, my mother decided, my dad worked for the Union Pacific Railroad from the time he was a young man, as his father did. And he was working there in Oregon. And my mother took my sister, I have a sister who's 10 years older than I am, and she took the two of us to Hollywood. She told my dad, she said, I'm just gonna try, and then they had it worked out so he would be transferred to California. So if you can imagine, we took the train to Southern California, to Los Angeles, got off at the Los Angeles Depot, which is still there, I can remember it. And the 3 of us got off the train just like we had good sense and walked out into the street, and my mother said, well, girls, here we are. We're gonna have to find a hotel. And that was the beginning of us in California. And she was a very courageous, forward-looking, wonderful woman, who died at 97. and later became a Hollywood agent for 40 years. She was a wonderful motion picture agent. Anyway, we came to California, came to Los Angeles. We found a hotel that first night, and then we began looking for a room in a house to live in. And we found one up on Franklin Avenue in Hollywood. We lived there for a long time. And I have a book, a scrapbook of letters that my mother wrote voraciously to Rudy Valley, Edward G. Robinson, Cecil B. DeMille. I have no idea how she got their addresses, how she did any of it. And nobody ever responded, you know, and I went to school, and my sister went to school, and immediately she began giving me lessons in acting and dance and voice and everything in Hollywood. And one day we got a letter from Edward G. Robinson, and he said, my secretary will be calling you. I want to use Gloria on my radio show, Big Town. So that was my very first radio show. And it was through him. I would never have had a chance to do anything. He took a chance on me, I guess. And she was very persistent. She wasn't rude, but I know she wrote more than one letter to all of these people. And Mr. Robinson wrote back and was so kind, so gracious to me, and gave me really a lesson in how you perform on the radio as an actress in about an hour and a half. And from then on, I just began doing all kinds of radio shows. Gosh, there were some in there I'd forgotten I did in the thing on you. I said to Ron, I don't remember doing this show, but I guess I did.
The shows exist.
I did Big Town, of course, with him. And then it was just, I look back on it and thinking about coming here to share with you today, I thought, wow, what a rich history of radio I was lucky enough to have. I worked with Fanny Bryce as a regular character on Baby Snooks. I worked with Lionel Barrymore and Agnes Moorehead as a regular. On Mayor of the Town, I played Charlie Bronson with Conrad Binion, who played Butch, the boyfriend. And I read, you know, all of your wonderful literature, and I see his name, and I was hoping he would be here today.
Yeah, I was.
Because I haven't seen him, obviously, forever. But to look back and think, I worked with Lionel Barrymore and Agnes Moorehead, just kind of gives me chills today, because I realize how wonderful they were and how lucky I was, Mel Torme show, the Bob Hope show, Red Skelton, gosh, I don't know.
Anytime they needed a little girl.
Anytime, there were about 5 of us in radio, and we would go and audition, and I can remember my mom would always say, honey, it doesn't matter if you don't get it. You tried, and you'll get the next one, and that'll be okay. So don't fret over it, you know, it's okay. And I remember we'd all go out, and I'd be so excited. And I worked at the old NBC studio and the CBS on Sunset, which was just like home. That was like home to me. And I would, in the meantime, after, just with reading and writing and everything else that I did in school, I just had to go to class all the time and learn how to act. I had a coach. And I went to the Ben Bard studio, which was in Hollywood, and did plays there, and had a voice teacher, and I studied at Louis Dupron, and gosh, I just studied all the time and went to classes all the time. Then when I got into high school and I had parties, you know, proms and things to go to, I didn't seem to be bothered by taking my dress on a hanger to NBC and hanging it in the ladies' room, and I'd do my show, my radio show, and then I'd run in there, get on my prom dress, and some boy would pick me up at the studio, and I'd go, and I'd missed half of it. Didn't bother me in the least, because that was my work. And I was thinking about it the other day. I can remember working on Lux Radio a lot. And I can remember we all came out and sat on a line, and they had an orchestra, a real live orchestra, and Mr. DeMille was there, and he would It was in the old theater. I don't know what it's called now, Bob. It was the Lux Radio Theater for
Yeah,
years.
the,
But it's
Huntington
now the
Hartford.
Huntington, and then it was Huntington Hartford. I don't know what it is now.
Now it's, what is it called?
Ricardo Montalban.
It's the Ricardo Montalban
Really?
Theater?
Well, that's where we did Lux Radio with a full orchestra.
Vine Street,
Yes.
yeah.
We had a full orchestra and everything. We would come out, you know, and sit down. It was all very elegant. I remember as a little girl sitting and looking at the audience as I am you, and I was sitting here with the other actors and looking over, and there was Mr. DeMille, and I was just so awed by him. And we would get up and do our script, and I can remember one show that I did with Hans Conried. Elliot Lewis was what, all these people that were like my family. And I was on a box still, and I was reading my script, and I dropped a page. And I can remember Hans next to me, just as easy as nothing, picked it up. It was a page I was slipping behind. I didn't need it. Oh yeah, I didn't need it, but it fell. And he reached down so graciously and put it behind, and I grabbed it with my other hand. And he kind of came over and gave me a little squeeze, like, it's okay, you know, no big deal. I can remember going home, walking down Vine Street. We lived on Santa Monica at that time in a small apartment. I can remember my mom and sister. My mom never scolded me, never gave me a bad. It was not a Hollywood mother. She was a wonderful mother. She said, sweetheart, you were great tonight, and I know you're not going to ever drop a page of script again. I said, no, I know I'm not either. that was horribly, you know. I can remember Joan Crawford had a round table reading one time, and she leaned over and asked Elliot Lewis, she said, does that little girl talk? Because we were, you know, sitting, oh, he said, yes, she talks, but she's a very well-behaved theater child, and she's very, very fine radio actress. She said, I just wondered because she's so good, and she never says anything except when she's working. And I thought, oh, I don't know if that's a compliment or not. And I told my mother, I said, is that a good or a bad thing? She said, honey, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be seen and not heard until it's time for you to go on. And then,
Save it for the mic.
you know, that's right. But she was a wonderful woman. I worked several times with her, and I know she got terrible press and was viewed as just a dreadful witch. She was nothing but good to mankind. Betty Davis. I worked on Lux Radio with probably every major actor and actress that ever existed. And Betty Davis, I could hardly read the lines. I was so fascinated by her. And she was so wonderful. They were all so good to me. They were all so kind to me. I once had a job as a standby for Margaret O'Brien because she didn't read very well.
She had to memorize her.
She had to memorize everything. And so Mr. DeMille asked the director, he said, I want Gloria here as standby because I don't think she's going to make it. I don't think Margaret's going to make it through the show because it was an hour. Lux Radio Theater was an hour.
Live.
And I can remember thinking, I was just honored that I was a standby for her. That didn't offend me, or I didn't think, oh, how come I'm not doing it? You know, my mom said, oh, that's an honor.
Yeah.
You're really honored that Mr. DeMille would want you to do that. So at first, the director had me off stage, sitting in a chair with my script waiting in case, I don't know what she would have done. I guess they expected her to just go blank and I'd have to run out and get up on the box. But she needed a box also. So I can remember Mr. DeMille coming in and saying, what is Gloria doing over there? And they said, well, she's, you know, standby. He said, well, not on my show. She's not. I want a chair, and I want her out with the whole cast, and I want her in front of the audience.
No hiding.
No. And so I thought, gee, he's looking out for me. You know, I felt so taken care of and honored. And, oh gosh, what other shows? Nobody's Children, which was a story about orphan children, and we would call them today children needing foster care and that sort of thing. And Johnny McGovern and I did that forever, and Conrad Binion and I did that show forever when they were kids. And Tommy Cook, my gosh, Tommy Cook and I, we all felt like family, and they would do things in the press, and they would call us the radio kids, and we would have pictures taken together, and we had meetings at the Brown Derby, and oh gosh, such fun that we had together as a a group of kids doing the same thing. And I can remember not feeling, it bothered me when I didn't get a part, because there were certain roles that I would as I got older. When I got to be about 12, there were certain roles that I'd go out for.
Yeah.
Ann Whitfield and some of the other, you know, and I think, doggone it, I want that
Norma
part.
Jean, yeah.
Norma Jean Nielsen. I thought, that's okay. My mom would say, honey, we've got to share that. It's okay. They need the job too. You'll get the next one. You know, she was always very positive, very upbeat. And, oh, golly. The life that I led was just magical. I can remember when I turned, I don't know if I was 13, I guess I was about 13, and I went to schools, you know, it was odd. If I was doing some film work, and so I'd be tutored on the set, and then I'd go to regular school, and I was always the odd one, because they always said, she never comes regularly, you know, how come she's just never here every day. And so when I got to the 7th grade, my mother took me to Westlake School for Girls out in Brentwood. She thought I ought to have a real school adventure that would be regular, you know, and everything. And they said, oh, well, we'd love to have you, after they were interviewing me. We'd love to have you, and your grades are fine, but we'd prefer not to have you because we just finished having Shirley Temple, and she was out a lot, and we really don't want to repeat that. It's a bad example for the girls, because of course I had to get out to work, you know. So they rejected me.
Oh.
No, they took me for 2 years, 7th and 8th grade. But then that was it. They had to promise my mom that through high school I'd never miss anything. She said, well, we can't do that, you know, because she works. That's what we do. So anyway, then I went to Immaculate Heart. I went to Beverly Hills High School because we lived in Beverly Hills after my, I should go back a little bit. When I turned 10, my dad died. He came down here a year after we came on the train and settled. He came down, they finally transferred him, the Union Pacific Railroad. And so we were a family again. And he waited for a year or two, and actually it was 3 years. And he came down, and 9 months after he was here, he was killed in an accident on the railroad in the downtown Los Angeles, where he worked for the Union Pacific. It was an accident on the job, and so he passed away in 2 days after that accident. So it was just my mom and my sis and myself for many, many years. And so when I turned 9, I guess, or 10, we moved. Mom bought us a house, a small house in Beverly Hills, and that's where we lived until I grew up and left home and went on to marriage. And it was just great fun, because when I got the call to audition for Our Miss Brooks, I had done, Janet Waldo and Dick Crenna and all those. We were all like family too, and Janet and I worked a lot of shows together, and I played her sidekick on her show, and Date with Judy I did, and regulars on all those shows. And then when I got the call to do Our Miss Brooks, I really wanted to do it. That was a series, and that meant not in and out as I had done before, but it was every week, and that to me seemed like a real job, and so that was very exciting. I was old enough to know what that meant, to work as a regular. And Larry Burns was the producer, and I can remember auditioning for him, and all my other cohorts were there, the same ones that always auditioned for everything in our age group. And when I got the call that I got it, I just about jumped through the ceiling. I was so excited. And I'll never forget the first day that we had our round table reading, and Miss Arden was there, and Mr. Gail Gordon was there, and Dick Crenna, whom I had worked with before on other shows. Yeah. And we were going to be a family, and I just couldn't believe that. I just couldn't believe that I was even in her presence, because she was a wonderful woman. And so I got the radio show, did that, and then we did a movie as a family cast for Warner Brothers, and then we did the television series. And I'll never forget the day that Larry came to me and to my mom, and he said, how would you like to do television? I said, gosh, that sounds like fun. And I knew they were going to go into television. And again, I thought, okay, I'm gonna be up with all those same girls again, I'm gonna go through this again, and I'm gonna have to earn it all over. But I'll never forget it, Kim, you said, I'm not going to audition for Harriet. I want you to do it. I want you to do the TV series. And I just felt, I don't know, I guess I cried, but I was very excited. And as a family, we all went to television. And at that time, our Mr. Boynton was our gross sell, later known as Jeff Chandler. And he passed away and was unable to do the TV series. And so Bob Rockwell was cast as Mr. Boynton and did the balance of our television show with us. And he was a wonderful man. In fact, I talked to his wife yesterday, Bets, and she said, oh, I want to be there tomorrow to see you. And she said, I can't, I have previous engagement, but she said, I got the notice kind of late and I'll miss you, but I'll think about you tomorrow. And she and I keep in touch. And John Wilder and I keep in touch. He used me in Centennial. I did the mini-series Centennial for John. And I played Mrs. Broombaugh in that TV series. That was a mini-series on television, made for television mini-series. Had a lot of fun doing that. And I was with Bob Rockwell just shortly before he passed away. And I was able to see him at his home in Malibu. Excuse me. And, gosh, this is so silly.
Bob came and spoke to us about 3 or 4 years ago, right in this very same room.
Oh, gosh.
It was wonderful.
I feel like an idiot. Forgive me. Anyway.
What memories are with?
Oh, golly, I promised myself I wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
I was able to be at Dick Crenna's memorial service at the Television Arts and Sciences and saw our picture together up there, and it just made me feel really warm and wonderful.
That was quite a turnout.
It was. And then Bob Rockwell, Betts called me and said, I want you and Ron to come out because she said, I don't think Rocky's going to make it much longer. He had suffered with cancer for so long, was so ill. And she said, I want you to come. And I said, I will. And so Ron and I went right away. And he was in a hospital bed at home. And I went in the room and I grabbed his hand and I looked at him. She said, I know he's going to recognize, he hasn't spoken for weeks, but she said, I know you're going to know that he knows you're here. So I took his hand and I grabbed him and I started talking to him, and I could just see for a moment his eyes just got as clear as could be and as bright as could be, and he kind of squeezed it, and I knew that he knew I was there. And he passed away, gosh, what, Ron, a couple of weeks later, a week later. And I was with Eve. I was so fortunate to be with Eve. She had asked me a number of times to do dinner theater with her. Mm-hmm. And I was unable to do it because of children and other commitments. And she called me one time, the last time, and she said, now, this is the last time I'm going to ask you, so I want you to do it. I don't care what you're doing. Find somebody for those children of yours. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Because I had seen her off and on, and I would go visit her in the Hollywood Hills. And we kept close contact. And she was like a second mom to me. And I did, under Papa's picture with her, for 4 months, dinner theater at the CERT Dinner Theater up in Seattle. And it was the most fun I've ever had. She and Brooks, her husband, did it. And I did the I did the second female role. And she and I had the most fun in the whole world in Seattle for about 5 months. It was just a ball. We just had a wonderful time. I've never had such a good time. And we were connecting at that point as adult women. And it was just fabulous. Just fabulous. We went to a party one night where they were honoring her, and she hated that sort of thing. She was not good at that at all, and she would sit next to me, and she said, okay, I'm going to squeeze your arm when I've had it. And she said, you know, find some reason, and we're going to get out here and go for a walk. And so she did, and I'm doing it to Bob, you know, and she went on, she kept smiling, and they kept saying things to her, and she went like that to me. I said, Eve, would you come with me outside? No, I'm doing what she did to me. Yeah. And we went outside to a long walk. And she said, I think they're all gone now. We can go back. And so we came back in, and they were all gone. And oh, gosh. We had such fun together. We really did. We just had wonderful, wonderful time. On the Armis Brooks set, I'll never forget, we were right next door to Lucy Ball and her husband, who yelled a lot. They yelled at each other a lot. They screamed. They didn't just yell, they screamed at each other. Profanity. And one of the light guys was resetting a light, and we were between scenes, and Gail Gordon always went to sleep. Every time we did a light change, Gail was over there going, taking a nap, you know, and she would have to yell over to him, come on, Gail, it's time to wake up, we're going to do this. And, oh gosh, he was so funny. And we did it live, but we did a dress with all the stuff, all the lighting and everything. And from next door, you would hear these words, these, you know, they weren't 4-letter, they were 9-letter words. And some guy on the light, up in the light, said one right back, just let it fly. And he said, okay, that's it, we're taking a break, and I want to see you. And he came down, and everybody took a break. She said, let me tell you something. I have a teenager on this show. None of us talk like that in front of her. And I would expect you to talk like that. So she said, that'll be the last time we'll hear that. Okay, so then we went right, and people have always said, what's it like, you know, kids in film, they're all basket cases, they're all drug addicts, and they've all got these problems from the terrible life. And I never had any of that. I had a mentor in her, and in every director, Elliot Lewis, Hans Conried, everybody was always so good to me. I never had a bad experience. And I guess it was not very exciting, you know, because of it, because I see all these other people, there's no book there, so, you know, she's pretty boring. And it was just wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. And such kindness. Mel Blanc, I'm sure you all know Mel Blanc. Well, he and I did so many radio shows together, it was fun. My mom and I, before we got a car, were at, right across from the LA golf course, waiting for a bus one day, and of course, I was late to rehearsal, which I never was, because the bus, something happened, we didn't, and up drove to the stoplight, Mel Blanc, in his car, and he rolled down the window, and he said, what are you doing standing there waiting for the bus? And my mom said, oh, Gloria's late, and I can't wait. Oh, he said, get in. He was going to NBC, and I was going to NBC, and he just took us, you know, things like that. Real, just really people that I was blessed to work with. And Gail Gordon was like a second father because I'd lost my dad, as I said. And he just treated me like gold. And Dick Crenna, every time I would go out with a new boy, during the television show, he'd say, okay, let me know, let's go talk. We'll talk about this guy, see if you want to go out with him or not. And so I would sit there and I would tell him everything, you know, and he'd say, yeah, he's okay. That's okay, you can go out with him. And then the next day at rehearsal, you know, he would say, was it all right? Did you have fun? So they lived my life with me, you know. So
It was like a big brother.
yeah, he was. And of course, the silly thing about it was I was in love with him, and I thought, he was older than I was. And, I was madly in love with him. And I told my mother one day, I said, I'm going to marry him because, I just love him, and I know he loves me. And, you know, I was 15, what did I know? And he was older than I was. He was in college at SC, and she said, honey, no, that's not going to happen. He's much older than you are, and he's not going to marry you, I hate to tell you. And when I got the wedding announcement, I was such a brat, I wouldn't go to the wedding. And the next week at the show, when he would come in for the rehearsal at the round table, he said, what happened to you? Well, how come you didn't come to the wedding? Oh, I said, well, I had to work. I was lying through my teeth, you know. But I wouldn't go. I was such an awful brat. And then later, I told him that story, and he just laughed. And we became really good friends, just really good friends. Somebody had a hand up. Yes.
Yeah, question?
When you were young, did you have any interest in money?
You know, it's interesting. What a good question. I knew that I was making money, but at that time, I just knew that my work was helping my family, my mom and my sis, because my mom didn't work. She was a full-time mother. Mm-hmm. So what I made supported my sister and my mom and me. and my dad was gone. And the money that came from his death, which was very, very modest, she was wise enough to put as a payment on a house for us. And that's how we got a house. And then growing up, my money went to keep us going. My sister went to UCLA, and then when I was 15, my mom became a Hollywood agent. She was the first woman agent in Hollywood for children. And she said to me, gosh, Gloria, now that you're working on Brooks, and what am I going to do? She said, I don't have you to, take to auditions and things. What am I going to do? I'll go crazy. And she came home one day, and I came home from rehearsal, and, well, she said, I found my job. And I said, what are you going to do? And she said, I found my first client today. I was in the grocery store, and there's this cute little red-haired boy. And I went up to his mother, and I said, your little boy is awfully cute. He ought to be in television or film. And she said, the mom said, well, are you an agent? And she said, not right now, but I'm going to be. And that was her first client, and from there, she handled Angela Cartwright, Lauren Chapin, the singer, Ron, what was the singer that did that Mom handled? I never can think of him. Anyway, just a bunch of kids. Veronica Cartwright, Angela Cartwright, Jay North. She got him the role as, Dennis the Menace. And she was just a thriving agent. And so then we were okay. Then she was making a living and I was making a living, and life was good. We had 2 incomes.
So you kind of got her into the business.
Yeah, I thought I'd get this question in before you noticed Conrad coming in. Anyway.
Oh my gosh! He doesn't even know who I am. Look at
I wanted to ask you, sort of a cliffhanger.
Hello, how are you? Oh my
What
God.
happened with the Lux Margaret O'Brien thing? Did you
Oh,
get
she
on
got
that?
through it.
She got through it, yeah.
She got through it, but boy, I got to sit on the cast
Up on the
line.
stage, yes.
Yeah. And it didn't bother me. I think my mom gave me such a good, she was just an amazing woman. And she gave me such a good take on what it would be to be a real actress. Because I really wanted to be a musical theater person, so I'm fulfilling that now. My husband and I have a performing arts center. We have 600 students. And we're teaching acting and dancing and vocal and all of it. We have our own in-house theater. I'm living the life. He's a former musical theater, well, not former, he's a musical theater person. And he's a fabulous tap dancer, and he was in all kinds of CLO shows, and he's just super talented. And so I'm living out what I wanted to do. I used to bribe my mother, and I would make deals with her. And I used to have an acting coach that coached me for an hour in Shakespeare up in Hollywood, in the Hollywood Hills, and she would go with me and sat right in the room with me. I never understood that until recently. And he was a wonderful man. There was nothing, she was everywhere I was. She never let me go anywhere. I never could get in trouble. She was always there. I never had a chance, I guess. But my break from him, from the hour of Shakespeare, was he would teach me to play chess. And for a half an hour, we would play chess, and that was my break. And if I needed a little water, that was okay. I could have a drink of water. But for 3 hours, I coached one-on-one, and he was from the London Academy, the Royal Academy of Acting in London. He was a fabulous man, fabulous man. And I did a one-woman show at the women's club, the Ebell Women's Club. I can't imagine at 12 how you do a one-woman show. But I did. It was an evening with Gloria McMillan doing a one-woman show, and I did monologues and all kinds of stuff. It was amazing. I don't know, but I was very busy. I was very busy. I didn't have much time, but I didn't mind. My mom, roller skating was a big deal to lessons. That was a fun thing. My mom let me roller skate, and she held on to my hand, and I'd go and take a tap class or whatever. But I used to bribe her. I say, okay, if I don't have the chess with Mr. Dunrobin in class, can I take an extra tap class? this week. She'd say, oh, honey, you can have the chest break, of course. But I don't understand why you want to take tap. You know, she just wanted me in the finer, she wanted me, as I said in the beginning, to be an opera star. So tap was kind of not classy enough for her, but she did let me because I loved it. Oh, I just loved tap and ballet, and I just loved it. I really did. And so that, I guess now I'm doing what I really love to do, which is this wonderful performing arts. And I very quickly, and then, gosh, I've talked way too long.
Oh.
Ron and I have 5 children, and 2 of them are in the business. We have our daughter, and one of our daughters and one of our sons they're in Las Vegas. They have their own production company, and it's the HKM Productions, Hazel Kelly McMillan, named after my mom. And they do events all over Vegas. They have clients like Intel and Skechers shoes and everything. They do huge, thousands of people when they come and do their business meetings. They provide entertainment and aerialists and all this stuff, and he does film things for Gallo Wine and a lot of clients. And they travel all over the world and do things, but his love is theater, and so he has 4 projects ready for Broadway. And so he's the one in our family, he and Barb, who are doing something in the legitimate theater, which is where my love always has been. And our oldest daughter is a teacher, going to be a teacher. She's going to get her degree after raising 2 wonderful children. And let's see, who did I leave out? Kelly, our baby, Barbara's our baby, but Kelly, our young one, teaches with us. She also has her master's degree from Redlands University. She's a teacher at the college out there, and where we live. And she helps us. She teaches musical theater at the studio. And John, our eldest son, is a vice president of a very large corporation. So those are our children, but now we have 600 children at the studio. And I was telling Bobby, he was so nice and asked us to have lunch with him, but we have to go to a wedding early evening for one of our girls that we've had since she was 3, and she's getting married this evening. So we have a lot of children that we've had since they're 3. We see them off to college. We have a couple that are doing theater they'll be in New York soon, and so I've had the best life in the whole wide world, and I owe it to a really smart mother who was just so much fun. I didn't deserve to have that much fun. Everything was okay and fun, and downers were never to be down. She always took a positive spin on everything. And as I said, she passed away when she was 97, and still telling jokes and still up there, you know, and just a wonderful, wonderful woman. And Eve was my second mother, and Gail was my second dad. And Richard Crenna was my almost husband. Yes.
Eve Arden had a second TV series. Did you do any
Yes,
work on that?
no, I did not. No, you're right, she sure did. No, I didn't. No, but working on live stage with her was absolutely a hoot. It was the most fun in the world because we did it, as I said, for 4 or 5 months. And it was a 4-person cast under Papa's picture. And she would do awful things, naughty things. Like we would be sitting doing a scene, and she would say something under her breath to me that was just awful, and make me, just force myself to keep control and everything. She was so much fun.
Just to add a little spice.
Oh, and it was a great comedy show, and she would say, "They're not laughing. They're not laughing." Oh, she was wonderful. I loved her so much. And it just, oh gosh.
Any stories about Gail Gordon? You mentioned that he was almost a father to you. Anything that stands out?
He was funnier than you could imagine with Dick. The 2 of them should have had their own television show. Yeah. Because when we would be on break, we would all just fall down laughing. We had way too much fun for a cast. We had way too much fun. There were no personas that had to be, dealt with carefully.
No egos.
None of it. Eve was as funny and as down to earth as anything in the entire world. Gail was hysterical. We laughed so hard between takes that he and Dick would get going. And it was like a stand-up comedy routine. That was just way too much fun. Way too much fun. Gail, though, when he was serious, he would sit at his desk in the principal's office and offset. And when we'd be on break, he'd sit there and I would come and, sit and talk to him. He would just sort of lay out lines of wisdom with a funny twist on it. And as I look back on that, I realize they were mentors to me. I was very vulnerable. I was 14, 15, 16, 17, all those ages, where you could really go crazy. And they were my family. They just kept telling me the good stuff and the positive reinforcement. And he would tell me stories about what you don't want to do, only not in that kind of a way, in a funny way, so that I really would remember it and think, oh yeah, that's okay. That's what I'm supposed to do. I remember Gail told me that. Okay. They just we were a family, a real family with, nobody ever got angry at each other. Nobody ever had a big to-do about walking off the set. None of it. We were just blessed. That's all. We just had a wonderful leaders, and they just took us down the good road. That's all. Because I've heard stories about and had friends who were working on other series, and it was just like a nightmare. Just nightmare. We didn't have it.
Egos get in the way.
Oh, gosh, yes. And spiteful things, mean things. No.
Anything about the radio series that stands out in your mind? That having to be there every week for that particular show?
I loved it. No.
Look forward to it.
Oh, no, I could hardly wait.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Yeah.
I could hardly wait. I couldn't wait. I went to school because you had to do that.
Yeah.
And I loved that, I guess. But I went to the set because that was my home. That was my family. That was where I belonged. And it was, really, that was my home. I just felt that. And all the people that I've seen on television, they were drug addicts and everything. Life was so terrible, and moms were so awful and made them perform and all that stuff. And I thought, gee, no, what happened to me? I didn't have that. I was really lucky. I really was. Yes.
Question.
Did you have to do 2 feeds of the radio show, early and late for the East Coast and West Coast?
No, I don't remember. Oh gosh, I don't remember.
Because it was the late 40s, I believe, that a lot of the shows.
Oh, you know what? I probably was so ignorant, and I was such a kid. I don't know. The thing that stands out with me in early radio was the sound engineer, the sound man. I can remember as a kid looking at those sound cues, thinking, "How are they going to do that?" And you had a picture of him in your flyer, and I could see his face, and I can't remember his name. He passed away. He was who?
Was it Ray? No, not Ray Earlenborn. No, it's sound effects.
That's what I mean, sound
Sound-
effects.
okay.
Yeah, I can see those guys with all their funny little gadgets,
All the-
making
like
doors
trash
open and
dump-
close,
dump
and
pile over there.
glass shattering, and stuff.
Yeah.
And I almost would miss a cue thinking, that's amazing. How are they going to do that? I thought they were the genius as in the company. I thought they were the guys that was just amazing.
Well, they were the actor stuntmen.
Oh, they really were.
Yeah.
They really, really were. And a funny story about Under Papa's Picture. When I went to do that in Seattle, the gentleman who was Eve's producer for that company, his name was Curtis Roberts. And Curtis Roberts, if anybody knows him, is a producer. And his mother was Ilona Massey, who was a famous MGM movie star way back when. And he is the single greatest, most wonderful character in the world. He and I are still great friends, and I see him often. We talk, and I get curt notes from him like, where the hell have you been? man? How come I don't hear from you? But he's a wonderful friend, and he was a great producer. In fact, Eve said, I've never been treated so well as I have on this run, because she said Curtis is on top of everything, so there was never a hitch on that production. It was wonderful. It was because of him, and Eve was just such a lady to work with. He just loved her and just remembered her from when she was at MGM around Alona's time. And Catherine Grayson, does that ring a bell?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Good friend of his, and Esther Williams, and he lives now, his apartment was burned on in West Hollywood, and so he's out in a guest house at this moment, living with on the property where Catherine Grayson's home is, and they're dear friends. And he's a wonderful, wonderful man, and a good friend.
Yeah, we're hoping to get Catherine sometime to a meeting.
Oh,
soon
that
as
would be
we
great
can.
fun.
Yes, Jim Harmon, you have a question.
Could I ask you if you work with a couple of actors, Frank Brzee, good friend of almost everybody here.
Frank?
He, he alternated with Tommy Cook playing a little piece on everybody.
Oh my gosh, no. Sorry about
The
that.
other name, when you talk about all these happy people, did you ever work with Bobby Blake?
Bobby Blake.
Bobby didn't do too much radio.
I don't think so, but I know who he is,
Yeah.
but no. I just remember working with Conrad Binion, and I just remember being such an obtuse little girl that I thought he was wonderful too, and I guess I don't remember how old I was. I just remember being in awe of a man of his legend, at Barrymore, that I never, that even as a young child, and we were, right, Conrad, we were just babies. I can remember thinking, I can't believe I'm standing next to this man in a wheelchair, because of course he was wheelchair bound.
You did the
Had
show
a
from a
table.
chair, didn't you?
Yes, oh, he did, and he had the mic in a wheelchair, and then we would come and share a mic with him. And I have a picture with long curls and a black velvet dress, standing next to him, reading my script, and he's looking up at me, smiling, and that's a very prized possession of mine. And of course, Agnes Moorehead, who was a wonderful, wonderful actress. And Mr. Barrymore was very good to me, giving me little hints about what I should do, what I shouldn't do, what was a good thing, what was a bad thing, what I could do better. Oh, never, what are you doing that for? I never got that. I just got good input, kind, generous input, maybe.
Passing it on.
I hope, maybe
Like you
Conrad
are,
didn't remember
like
that.
you are, you're passing it on.
And Johnny McGovern, John Wilder, and I worked a lot together.
Was Rhoda Williams?
Oh, gosh, yes.
She just passed away
I
a
didn't
few
know
months ago.
I didn't know that. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. One of the girls. We'd all go to NBC on a call, we'd look around and go, yeah, we're all here. It's like nobody's dropped out, I guess, so we're gonna all have to go
But there was
for it.
enough work for everybody.
There was.
Yeah.
There was.
That's the beauty of it.
And my mom always had the same old line every time. We'd go out of that audition, she'd say, honey, if you don't get this one, you'll get the next one,
Yeah.
And that was my attitude. And
Barbara, you got a question? Yeah?
I was wondering, what are the differences in the working conditions between the radio show and the television show?
The difference between the radio and the TV
Gosh,
show.
difference.
Armis Brooks?
Work on each of them.
the difference in,
Right, in the working conditions.
oh, see, I'm so spoiled. I was so spoiled. They were fabulous on both. I never, and I'm not sure what you mean about conditions.
Was the radio a little easier to do than the television product?
No, they were both a piece of cake, because we were, by
the
that
same
time,
people, yeah.
our timing and our tempo
You knew what the other
was
one
so in sync with each other, we could almost silently read a beat that we'd need to take, or we could almost feel it, because we were such a tight-knit group. The radio show was wonderful. We did it at CBS, and it was fun, and gosh, we had nothing
So
but
was
fun.
it sort of like when the cameras were on and the other, there were no cameras?
Right, because for a lot of the radio I did in front of live theater with, full orchestra.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Lots.
Think about that. But a lot of it was live theater, so we had an audience, and we had to dress, and we had to, you know, as if it were a theater performance. And then the television was just, Eve saw to it that it was a piece of cake. It was nicely done. I have to say one last funny story. I went on hiatus, and I'd never been away from home, ever. And I got an opportunity to go to Europe with a friend of mine. He was a college student at Stanford, and 6 college students were going to be taken to Europe for 3 months by the head of the history department at Stanford University and his wife. And one person backed out or something, and they had a spot, and so he called and said, "You're on hiatus, why don't you come? It would be wonderful to go to Europe for 3 months." So I rolled that by my mother, and she said, "What? You know, you've never been anywhere. What are you talking about, 3 months?" Well, I did my little sales talk, and I told her all the good points and all the good things. She let me go. Oh, you're gonna love this. We sailed on the Queen Mary, okay, which is now in mothballs down in Long Beach. And we came back on the Queen Elizabeth. Okay. I left, and I weighed 100, probably 112. I was a teenager, you know, 115 maybe. I came back. I don't know what I thought. I really don't know where my brain was. I weighed 140 pounds. I had done nothing but eat on the ship in Europe. We were there for 3 months. Yeah. And I didn't, it just, you know, I was free and I was doing all these things and seeing all these things. I literally must have rolled off the ship. And my mother, I'll never forget, looked at me coming down the hill.
Waddling down.
And she said, "Oh my." Well, the first day back, and I got back like maybe 4 days before I had to go back on the set. I'll never forget it. The wardrobe mistress. We always had the craft service, of course, you know, where they fed us. The craft service girl looked at me. And of course, none of the previous season wardrobe would have fit me. She looked at me and she said, "Oh, I guess we're going to be doing some shopping." And she followed me for 2 weeks through the craft line. And she would take I'd go to reach her and she'd grab my hand, she'd go, and literally guide me through the craft table. And I mean, I knew what I looked like. And
What was your age then?
I was 19. I was 19. And I was an idiot. I don't know what I thought. I just never been away, I guess, and I just thought, oh my goodness, look at all this wonderful food. Freeze a bird. And we walked a lot, so I think I told myself, gee, I'm walking a lot, I'm exercising, it's good, you know. But oh, it was so funny. And Eve was so darling, and she just did one of her, oh, okay, you know, readjust that body. But she was so good, never scolded me, never did a thing, nothing. It was just, you know, wonderful. Kind and good.
Now, for a brief while, you guys did the television and the radio show at the same time.
Oh, that was so much fun. Oh, that was just wonderful. We were always together. I mean, we were, you know, yeah. I know that sounds Pollyanna, and I know that you're probably thinking, oh, well, you know, she's forgotten a lot of the bad stuff. That's not true. No, I remember a lot of bad stuff, but it never had anything to do with my career. It had to do with losing my dad and other things, money, but because we were always really, oh, it's a good thing I got this show, because boy, now we can pay the rent. You know, that was always a happy thing. But I never felt put upon, like, okay, you're the breadwinner, so you bet. I never felt that way.
It was just what you did.
The family, we worked as a family, you know. My sister was going to college, and it was okay. That was fun. I loved it. I can't imagine doing it. And I look back and I think, my goodness, that's what I was meant to do. Because now, Ron and I have this wonderful studio. We have 6 huge studios with wood floors and ballet bars, and we have a staff of 6 teachers. And we have the best time in the whole world. It's an awesome, awesome business that we do, and we go every day. We work every single day and we're on vacation now because of this. We just said, oh, we're gonna take a couple of days. But we teach Monday through Saturday and tap our brains out, and I love it. Yes, do you have a question?
Well, it might be interesting to tell them the connection with John Wilder and our son Chris.
Johnny, McGovern John Wilder, our son bought the rights to Lerner and Lowe's Paint Your Wagon to do on Broadway. And it's been in process, it's been a work in progress for about 5 years now. But Johnny did they got together, because Chris said to me one day, I've got to find a writer that has done television and film and also understands theater, and we got to do a treatment. And I said, Johnny would do that, I know he would. So we got together, and those two got together, and they've remained a team, so to speak. He did the first treatment on Paint Your Wagon, which they did in, what's the theater in Westwood? The Geffen. Yeah. You look so familiar. Are you no, you just look like I should know you. But they did it at the Geffen Theater in Westwood, and it was wonderful. And Johnny, now they're doing something again together, and I'm not sure what that is. But the two, I thought, isn't that fun? Our son and somebody I worked with all those years doing work together.
Come full circle almost,
Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't
That's
that
one of the
fun?
reasons why we can't get Johnny Wilder to come
He's
to our
very busy.
meeting, because
Yes,
he's busy.
yes. But I think also Johnny and his wife, Jan, have taken over the custody of one of their grandchildren. And I think they
That's a
are
full-time
very,
job.
very busy. We know that. We have 8 grandchildren, Ron and I. Yes.
You've mentioned your studio several times. Where is it?
We are in San Bernardino, which is near Redlands. And we've been there 30 years. And everybody goes, yeah. And we went from one room, because I had an acting studio at one time, just a little tiny one room. Then I thought, gee, we need to do something else. So Ron came along, and we put our heads together, and we decided, gee, we do dance, but we need a bigger venue. But we did literally start in a tiny little, like a mall kind of cubicle thing. And now we have this 2-story building with observation windows all the way around the second floor, and the first floor is all studios. And we have our own in-house black box theater. We seat 80 people max. We do all kinds of shows there. And then we do a big concert every 18 months at the huge California Theater. I don't know if you know that venue. It's the theater, the last theater where Will Rogers performed. It's a legend in itself. And about 2,000 people, it seats about 2,000. We perform there, 3 performances every 18 months for our dancers and our singers. But our actors perform in our own venue there, the studio. Oh, it's just wonderful. We have kids. It's just wonderful. We have grandchildren. No, we have children of children we've taught. We don't have any grandchildren.
Well, you're getting there. You're working on it.
Got out of the car today, I said, I wonder if I should limp or something. Should I do something?
Well, you're gonna have to keep us informed
Oh.
in the radiogram, send information to Patrick up there.
Oh, how fun.
And
Okay.
get that information out, because we're interested in what our honorary members are doing today too.
I just feel so very honored to be here and to share. And I was a little apprehensive, Ron, I'll tell you that. I thought, I wonder what this is going to be like. A little scary. But I just feel so comfortable, and I'm so excited that there are this many people that think radio is the way I think it is.
Well, most of us were on the other side of the
So
mic,
fun.
and you're on the side of the mic that knows the stories of what was happening.
It was truly just wonderful, and I know I've left out some wonderful things, and I'll get home and go, oh, I should have told you.
Yeah. Well,
That's
is there
okay.
Barbara,
That's
you
okay.
have a
Barbara.
question?
Yes, did your sister ever want to do any radio?
My sister was this wonderful mentor. See, I had so many mentors.
Yeah.
That's why I know I'm so convinced that Ron and I are meant to do what we do. We're mentors. We have teenagers who say, I wouldn't tell my mom this, Miss Gloria, but I'm going to tell you something, and what do you think I should do? What a rich blessing that is, to have that, and we do, I hope, mentor, as I've been mentored, and so was Ron. I don't know if the name, the guy at CLO that we love, that Jack Bunch. Anybody know that name? Musical theater director, great man, was Ron's mentor all through his young years. And I had my mom, my sister, and Eve, and I was just blessed, that's all. Anyway, your question was my sister. She was the brilliant one. She graduated with honors from UCLA. She became a teacher. She contributed to, she did theater a little bit in the beginning. She was the singer in the family. And she did a little bit of they called it vaudeville, it wasn't really, or nightclub work in LA, but it wasn't really nightclub. My mother was there every night. I was there every night. So it wasn't a nightclub, but she danced and performed. She loved the business. She did radio back in Illinois and Buffalo, where she lived with her husband after she got married, and she did local theater in Buffalo, New York, radio in Buffalo, New York. Came back out here and did theater in Ontario with the local community players, and very talented woman. But her gift was education. She, in her later years, she taught ESL, English Second Language, to immigrants and to people from all nations through the educational system. And she passed away in October of this year. And so I sure miss her too. But yes, we all, the whole family, I guess, was meant to reach out and take children and try to be a good example.
Pass it on, yes.
Yes, share it.
Yes, Max.
I was just a little bit curious about that little redhead boy your mother had as her first client. Did he do anything?
Gosh, you know, he didn't. I knew you were going to ask, somebody was going to ask the question. And I cannot remember his name, but he was the cutest kid, and he was her first client. And he did a lot of film and television stuff that I don't remember what it was, but he was darling. And then is when she got the Jane Norths and all these other kids. And I have to say one last thing that I'm so proud of. She was the only agent allowed in Walt Disney's private office because he thought she was so cool. And he said to her, Hazel, whenever you're on the lot with one of your clients, I want you in my office to say hi, and I'm going to be really angry if you're not. So she always was, she was a very unobtrusive woman. She was not, that was her charm. And she would go by and she'd go, hi, Walt. And he'd say, okay, come on, get in here, what'd you bring, you know? And so she'd go in his office and they'd chat about it. And she did, her clients worked a lot at Disney. He loved her kids, but she always told all her clients, go to college, get a degree, and follow your dream, but go to school. And we tell our kids that. Go to college, get a degree, get your education, and we have 4 of them right now at major colleges ready to go to Broadway, but they're going to get their college first. So we're really proud of them.
That little red-headed boy was not Jimmy Boyd.
No, awful.
The only one I could think of.
But he was sure cute.
Yeah.
She had just a huge agency, and she was the first female, because all the men, you know, gave her a bad time at William Morris and said, well, a woman, oh right, you know, you're not going to be able to come up against those fast-talking producers. You're not going to be able to do it. Oh yeah, she did in a very gentle way.
Well, she got good
And
training.
very gracious.
Taking care of you.
She sure did. Yeah.
Could I ask you to
Yes, Jim.
do a few lines as your character?
Oh gosh, please. Tell me. You know, I couldn't even remember it.
Gee whiz, Harriet, you
Oh,
want to go on
gosh.
a date tonight?
Oh, I know. And poor Dick Clement, that voice just followed him. Followed him. We would go on publicity things together, you know, and they'd say, okay, can you talk for us? Talk in your voice, you know, and he'd look at me and go, okay, here we go. Oh, gosh, it was so fun. We did a press thing one time when I was probably 17, and I got to drive with him. My mother didn't let me drive with anybody. I got to drive with him, And I thought, I can remember thinking, this is it. This is a date. This is really it. You know? Wrong. Oh my gosh, such fun times. Such fun times.
Any other questions?
Well, tell me something. You all are just fans of radio, or are some of you sound people, or?
A little of everything. We're all, Jim Harmon is a writer of radio. He writes about old
Such a
radio
familiar
programs.
name. I guess
Yeah.
I see your name when I look at
I
that.
produce, professional shows, The Bible, The Mystery, and Down Next.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
How
we just kind of run the gamut. Most of us are fans. We grew up listening to you guys on the radio.
Oh, I can remember as a kid, 4 years old.
What's
in
your favorite show?
Portland, Oregon, sitting and looking at the radio. Can you remember that?
Yeah.
We used to go in the living room and sit on the couch, and there was the radio right there, and we would sit like this. And I think, isn't that comical? I don't know what we were looking for, but we sure did do that.
Your imagination
I
was
guess.
in there somewhere.
Oh, and listen, I think, I'm still convinced that we were pretty good.
Oh,
Because we had to do with our voice what we've got everything now to do, you know, the film and all the costume and all the stuff. And we had to do all that with voice. That was pretty cool. That was pretty fun. Yeah. Conrad, what are you doing? Oh, good. Are you
It's
really?
always on the end.
Oh, that is fun. My husband has used the computer all day. We have a son, we have a grandson who is a computer freak. And he just graduated from high school, and he's in his first year at UCLA doing computers with, he has a scholarship with Hewlett Packard, and he has been on the computer in his room forever. I can just remember going to visit them, and where is Justin? He's at the computer. But it's good because he loves it, and he's doing something he loves.
Conrad, would you like to step up here for a moment and just share a microphone with us?
Oh my goodness, my goodness. I have to give you a hug.
She's talking about weight.
Oh, come on, doesn't it? Oh, come on.
Covering that? Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Well, yeah, let me get a chair.
I'll bet you don't remember this. I'll bet you don't remember this.
Just drag it up there.
Drag this chair up here. Do you remember, I have only one thought, one memory to ask. Do you remember coming to my house in Beverly Hills for a party? No, but
I
that's
don't
okay.
think so. I don't
That's
think
okay.
so.
I have to tell you a funny story. This house that we all bought, my family, my mom, my sister, and myself, it was a very small house. And we had a patio that was probably this long, and maybe from this gentleman to the wall. That was the patio, okay? Well, since I was really, I don't know what the word is. I didn't get out much. I guess I was about, I don't know, how old were we?
Sheltered?
Very young. I was sheltered.
Sheltered, yes.
I was very sheltered. Well, I thought he was very cool, and I got to work with him pretty often on Mayor of the Town. Do you
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah.
And he was kind of cool and kind of ignored me, because I probably was just, you know, this, I have pictures of myself, and I would ignore myself. And I said to my mother, I want to give a party. She said, what for? I said, because I could ask Conrad to come, and we could have a party, and I could invite some of my girlfriends, and we could have a party at the house. Well, we couldn't have a party in the house, because that was verboten. My mom was real particular about the house. She said, we could have a patio, which again was, keep in mind this game. I got a record player with some records. I thought we were going to dance. I thought this was going to be a real party. And all these girlfriends, and we invited a guy. You did come. You don't remember. It was so horrible. You don't remember. Try not to. And we just sat there. We just sat and listened to the records because nobody would do any, nobody did it much. We didn't even talk. You don't remember. He's going, it's a bad memory. I've repressed it. It was in Beverly Hills. It was on Doheny Drive.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just nothing. We had refreshments, a record player, and this little bitty confined space where we all just sat. It was awful. It was terrible. But I at least got you to my house. I thought that was incredible.
The thing that I remember really the most is because I was involved with machines and things like that. In fact, when I was 14, 15 years old, I was taking flying lessons, and which the producers, I don't imagine, liked at all on any of the shows I did.
Chances,
But what could they do? And I was very careful in that. So the thing about machines is that I remember your automobile, you had a Lincoln Continental.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
It wasn't my car, my mother's car.
It was her mother's car, a beautiful Lincoln Continental. And I just looked at that car. I don't know how we were where we were that I could see the car, but your mother and you and I were together, and I
It was
said,
probably at this dreadful party.
well, maybe coming home, but going someplace.
Really?
And I said, what a beautiful car. And she says, well, you have a license, don't you? I says, yeah. And when in the state then, California allowed children who were working to have a driver's license at age 14. So I had a driver's license at age 14.
Don't tell me she let you drive.
She let me drive that car, and I'm telling you, I got in that car, and you were in the back seat, and she was there, and I was. She says, "Go ahead and drive it. We're going to go and I don't know where we went to, but I was blown away that your mother had enough trust in me to drive that beautiful car. And I'll tell you, I was driving that car with all the driving capability I had. And I was looking doubly at roads and signals and braking and stopping and going and making sure that I didn't jerk or any of that kind of stuff. But it was an automatic transmission. It was a beautiful car, gray, or silver, something like that. And we went wherever we went. I dropped off, or maybe, I don't know what we did. These memories are just little bits. You know, I don't have a beginning of how it had it introduced, or I don't have a climax of how it stopped. I just know it happened, and I have the vivid beginning to the end routine of this.
We might have been taking you home from the party.
Could have very well been that.
But I was in the back seat, so that was.
And see, like you don't remember this. I don't remember to a great extent of the party. But you know, I have a kind of a fuzz in the back of my head about maybe some kind of a thing like this.
Yeah,
but I do know that I drove that car, and I was just so taken back that your mother would and in doing that, I had a learning experience of. People will trust you and live up to the trust that people put in you. Yeah. And that was what I learned. And I've kept that with me all my life. Aww. From your mom.
That's so weird. She was a wonderful woman. She was an amazing woman who that's such a fun story, and I don't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, and it's no longer a secret between you and me. I've just told it to you, you know. But that's how I held your mom as part of my experience of life.
Isn't that interesting?
And the you know, the party about the thing is that
you were quiet.
I was not too. Comfortable around girls.
Oh, I know that.
And
he would always move over.
And the fact that, quote, even my character on the show, which was basically mayor of the town, had a girlfriend was
oh, I know.
You know,
I know.
and any of the scenes that we would have together, it was, you know,
awful.
I was just. To be
And
associated
to have to share the mic with
with a girl, and so you know, and I tried not to let that impression get out too far away from my aura, you know, but it was just, you know, don't let the girls get too close.
I got the message.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so fun. When Bob called and asked about it, I said, oh, gosh, do you suppose Conrad Binion's going to be there? That would be such fun to see him after all these, because I haven't seen Tommy Cook for a long time, but of course Johnny and I see each other, but gosh, you're the other one. I'm so glad I got to see you.
You still look great.
Thank you. Oh, gosh, if I stopped crying, I'd be fine.
Fine.
You know, but that comment about my mom, all of her clients would say that. Her clients always said, you know, oh, you know, Hazel tells me I can do it, so I believe I can do it. You know, I believe I can do it.
Well,
She was a
apparently
really neat
there
one.
were
Neat,
agents and then there were agents.
Yes, there were. Oh, isn't that the truth? Yeah, you're right. Well, have fun. Thank you for coming. My goodness.
Well,
Do you live far?
Encino.
Oh my goodness, we came over the mountain.
No,
Down
came through the pass.
Through the pass. The mountain and through the pass.
Well, he had quite a distinguished career in the United States Air Force.
Well, I heard about that and gosh, what a wonderful thing.
All the things that you were relating earlier happened during my tours of duty. So I have no experience of witnessing any of your later career. You know.
Gave it all up.
And yeah, because I just part of that flying aspect, I just wanted to go on to bigger and better flying, and I says, well, I'll go in the military and make a career in the military. And later on, Jim Doan, you know, who was Lionel Barrymore's agent and business manager and consultant. He says, hell, that's the smartest thing you ever did. getting out of the business, you know, you got a job for life, you know, that kind of stuff. I said, well, if I don't get killed in the process, but I'm retired from the Air Force now, and I don't do any flying anymore, but just fool around and talk to old buddies and play on the computer and email on the computer.
Play the keyboard. No.
Yeah, and send all the silly jokes and stuff like that goes on. And
Gosh, you were lucky you got to drive at 14. I was 21 when I learned to drive. I didn't get to drive till I was 21 years old. I'm good.
Questions?
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to say that we were very, very fortunate, Conrad, that you used to take your camera to the studio, because Conrad has a lot of pictures of the studio, which he shares with us on email from time to time. So thank you very much for that.
How
I wish I had
exciting.
more. I really wish I had more, but no one ever told me later on that you were going to be called upon to provide any kind of a record.
Yeah, that's the only thing that
Do you have
exists.
pictures
now.
of
Pictures.
Arthur?
I never took my camera too much to any of that, but I have some, but any that I would ever come across, you know. But to be honest, and this is cruel, you know, I probably wouldn't have taken a picture of you because it would have been part of that girl thing again. Yeah, you know, but I take, you know, the only pictures I have.
I did the best I could do. I gave a party. What can I tell you?
Yeah. We had that photo shoot at our house, at our home one time, remember?
Yes, and with all the other kids?
No, just
us?
you and me, ostensibly us sharing a homework session.
Oh, I remember that.
And,
I do remember that.
Yeah, and I think I have something around. No matter when I
goodness.
come across it, I'll naturally create a contact with you guys. And
I would love that. I don't know why, but I just don't have a lot of pictures from any of that. Isn't that strange? Any of that era, any of my work. I don't know why that is. But I sure don't. I would love that.
well, I gave Bob a picture email. Did you get the picture of your your candlelight Christmas picture.
I'm not sure. Was that recently?
Most recently,
Oh,
a couple of days ago.
Oh, I haven't seen my email. She lets me on it once in a while. I haven't seen it for about 3 days.
Just the email, I trust.
Okay, yeah, right.
Okay. Other.
Oh, God. Air Force.
What will we do?
Yeah. Well, now that we've got you in contact, we'll share addresses.
We can,
Oh, that would be great.
We can,
I love that.
And all that stuff.
I do remember that though, and I remember that you were with us when Tommy Cook and Johnny McGovern and Rhoda and some of those others, Norma Jean, we did a shoot, you probably maybe wouldn't remember, at the Brown Derby, and they were doing a publicity thing on Radio Kids.
Probably,
But you were
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I'd love to see that. Was it Radio Life or something like that?
It was for Radio Life, yeah. And I'm trying to think, I have a picture of that somewhere if I come across it.
Oh, I'd love to see
Yeah, I don't have that to any good extent. But,
Well, it had girls in it, so that.
oh well, as part of the group, I didn't mind that too much because there were other guys and all.
I
that kind of
see,
stuff.
okay, it's just one-on-one.
Yeah, but
And I was so miserably shy, I didn't know what was going on anyway, so. Oh, what fun. Well, thank you for allowing us to reconnect. This has been so much fun, my goodness.
Well, it's been as much fun for us, and it's my pleasure at this point to, since Conrad is already an honorary member,
Are you?
you're going to join him as an honorary member of SPERDVAC.
You're kidding me. Oh.
That entitles you to a free radio grant. Of course, you've been getting it for
Oh, I
a
have,
long
yes,
time,
I have.
but now you'll get it as an honorary member.
Isn't that exciting? Oh, how sweet of you. Oh, thank you. Oh, I will treasure this. I'll put it up in the studio. That's where we'll put it.
yeah.
Ron, will you take a picture of us?
Just go right ahead.
Oh gosh, this is so exciting. Come on, Bob. Get in this. Oh, one more, because Thank you, guys.
Wonderful. Thank
Oh,
you for coming, Gloria.
this has been joyful. Thank you so much. I know you from somewhere. You're somebody's son or somebody. What is your name?
Holland McAllister.
Gosh, you're so I'll think of it.
If you'd be so kind to stay and sign some autographs.
Oh,
I know you have to
gosh.
leave real
no.
quick, but our next meeting, this is our last meeting for this summer, and we'll take the summer off. Our next meeting will be in September. We don't know exactly where, probably out in the valley, maybe at the pavilion. We'll let you know. Keep watching your radio band. Keep watching the skies. Thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you then.
I hope you'll forgive me for not sharing that Conrad Binion shows up out of nowhere. I figured that spontaneity should hit you the same way it did me. This whole event was a treat. I loved hearing how Gloria felt about her time working on Armis Brooks. It's good to know that a show that brings you so much joy was crafted by people who loved each other just as equally. Things like hearing about Robert Rockwell and how she was getting choked up talking about him near the end is it moved me. I can't express how joyful listening to her stories made me this week, and how her second family memories tap into the way many of us radio fans feel about each other. We're all part of an untraditional family, cheering up each other by spinning a dial to see what's on together from yesteryear or from what's on today. Thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed this time we've had together by the Podio Machine, let us know by dropping us a line at behindthedialpod@gmail.com or rate and review the show on your favorite podcatcher. And as always, if you would like to support the mission of SPERDVAC from preservation on down to the future of audio arts, please head on over to SPERDVAC.com to learn how you can become a part of this lovely audio family. Now that's all for tonight, folks, and until I see you in 2 weeks, good night.